Everyone's normal until you get to know them. When I first moved into this street, I didn't feel welcome at all. I thought it'd be quite neat to get away from the urban sprawl, but I soon felt I was the odd one out. They all gave me nasty looks. "You can't park there," came the first shout. I was now in their bad books. Well, I had bohemian clothes, a wizard's hat, a Free Tibet poster and a three-legged cat, a multicoloured van, a peace flag, an earring and a pointy beard. But really, I don't know what it was that they feared. I was just happy to try and get on with my neighbours and make the most of this little town I'd come to settle myself in. So I greeted each and every frown with a wave and a friendly grin. 2 weeks passed, but still hardly a word. No hellos, how are you, or that's a nice bike. So I began to wonder what I could do, or what I could say that would make them like me, or at least accept me, or even say hi. It was a nice house I'd found, so I was determined to try. So I made everyone vegan scones and went along the road knocking on all the doors. And well, some of those morons didn't answer, and others were shocked to their cause. There were awkward mutters and stutters, some shuffling of feet and lowering of eyes. One said, "Did you use any butter?" Another said, "I prefer pies." My good deed done, I'd had some fun, so I went home to wait and see if any of them would come and do the same for me. It took another week, but then Trixie Go Down invited me round for cakes and tea. Face made up, she greeted me in nothing but a dressing gown. Did I tell you she was 93? She licked her lips, looked me up and down, swayed her hips, dragged me into the living room. I began to sense my doom. But she said, "Scrabble?" Well, I tried not to babble, but accepted her offer. I said I didn't want anything else off her. She said, "Don't worry, I always dress like this for Scrabble. It stops the pixies, they're such a rabble, and always in a hurry, demanding more curry." "Curry?" I said, and began to worry. "Oh yes," said she, "I don't want the goblins to attack, but it does mean the pixies keep coming back." And that was really the start of it all. Mr. Barker asked me next. He didn't admit to being sociable. There was some pretext. He knew I was a chippy. Something about a shelf. "You know it won't fix itself. I used to work for Mr. Whippy, but there was not enough sex." Turns out he collects My Little Ponies. Says they're cleaner than kittens and pups. They don't need feeding neither, and it's only till I'm properly growed up. I'm just 78, you see, and I won't mature until I'm 83. Then there were John and Jean, who think they can't be seen when they make love in the weenie bin, even though it's a communal one they're in. Freddie Malone, who lives on his own, mows his lawn with his teeth, wearing nothing but a sharkskin hat and singing Sunshine on Leith. And after that, Bill and Dave. "Come on round," they said. They took me into a cave under their garden shed, served me beetles and worms and other things that squirm, and talked to the living dead. Brenda and Sue, who paint themselves blue whenever the word Marmite is said. At number 14, that's little Sandy, thinks he's the reincarnation of Gandhi, makes his own clothes and sucks his toes after dipping them in brandy. Number 42, Donna McGrew, keeps eels in her bathroom sink. Jamie at 57, he's from Devon, kicked up quite to stink when the vicar told him he wouldn't go to heaven for dressing his boys in pink. Though the vicar's quite kinky, saw him dressed in a slinky nightdress with a lacy trim. He had thigh-high boots of scarlet leather, and rolled about in a bed of heather whilst singing a Calvinist hymn. All these people I thought were normal, and I was the odd one out. But from what I've seen since I got to know them, they're weird as marzipan trout. Now, the only one who's not friendly to me, in the big house at the end of the road. Sir Botley Manningworth Crostlefudge, a portly cove with the face of a toad, former MP, mason and judge, local businessman, one-time banker, widely regarded as a bit of an anchor in the community, upstanding, righteous and just. But he calls me a scruffy layabout, anarchist, a lefty whose views disgust. He opens the village fete, calls the Prime Minister his mate. If you wear a suit when you're up in court, he'll think you're more of a decent sort, and let you off with a lighter fine, when going to prison would more fit your crime. And if you're a mason, a nod and a wink is a sure way to make your sentence shrink. But he's the strangest of them all, as it turns out. Completely bonkers, without a doubt. Mad as a flea, out of his tree, off his trolley, mind gone astray, and I don't mean in a pleasant way. You see, one day, Mrs. Perkins, his cleaner, saw smoke coming out of his window, his Porsche parked outside for show. He was that kind of bloke. So she knew he was in, called 999. Fire! Ambulance! Police! You should have heard the din. They all screeched up, and in they broke. Found him fried to a crisp. Electrodes attached to where his balls would have been. More on his nipples, and even more obscene, his laptop survived. He'd been watching animal porn. You know the sort of thing. Nuns having fun with goats and horses, sailors and poodles joining more than forces, having the time of their lives, doing it until dawn. Then they found all 3 ex-wives buried under his lawn. Photos down in his cellar showed how and where he'd been scratched and bitten, sitting on a propeller, doing unspeakable things to a kitten. So it just goes to show you never know what people do in the privacy of their homes. Now it seems normal to me to dance with garden gnomes. Though, apart from the judge, they all seem quite harmless. There's naught as strange as folk, they say. Yet, despite their quirks, they're mostly charmless. So I've decided not to stay. It's rather like a Beckett play. And I don't want to get too pally. They're just too wacky for me. I'm going back to Hippie Valley to brew up some mushroom tea. Yippee!